Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Top Words. Today we're going to talk about 10 ways to stop translating in your head. Let's get started. Identify objects around you in English. The first way to stop translating in your head is to identify the objects around you in your target language. So if you're studying English, that means you look at the objects around the room. Look at the things in your life. Don't think of them in your native language first. Think of them in your target language first. So if I look around the room, I see a computer, I shouldn't think my native language word, I should think my target language word. So start with the items and the situations in your everyday life. If I say computer in English, maybe I should say computer in Japanese. I should say not, water in English. I should say omizu in Japanese. So start associating the words in your target language with your everyday life now. So if you're studying English, that means start getting familiar with the things in your everyday life in English. Repeat phrases you hear native speakers use. Tip number 2 is to repeat the phrases that you hear native speakers use. So if you're watching this channel, for example, or you're watching a TV show or a movie, listen for the way that native speakers make those phrases. If you hear a phrase you have never heard before, or you hear an interesting combination of words, try to repeat them yourself. Don't just listen. Try to say them yourself. If you're in a public space and it's difficult for you to do that, fine. Practice in a place where you feel more comfortable. Maybe if you have some private space to practice. Just repeat them. Get your mouth used to saying the words the way that the native speakers do. So if you never actually say words, if you're only taking in, if you're only listening and you're not actually producing the language, it's kind of hard to practice and to really hone your pronunciation, to improve your pronunciation. So when you listen to native speakers, try to repeat after them. So for example, if you're studying English, you can try to repeat after this video. You can repeat after the things I'm saying, because maybe I'm using an expression or I'm using a certain series of vocabulary words together the way a native speaker would. And it's maybe a good idea to try to practice the ways that native speakers put their words together. So try to repeat after native speakers, especially when you're looking at media. And you can do this when you're reading books too. You can try to read out loud interesting lines of books that you find or something that maybe is difficult for you. Very nice practice tip. Make a situation where you can't escape into your native language. Make a situation where you can't escape into your native language essentially means immerse yourself. Of course, going to that country or going to a place where you can speak only that language is very difficult for some of you. Totally understand. But if in your life you can create a situation in your library, in your room, in your house, somewhere, for just an hour or, maybe a day. I don't know what your schedule is like. But if you can create a situation or create an environment where you have no choice but to use that language and you cannot escape, meaning you cannot go back to using your native language as a crutch. You can't use the native language at all. It forces you to use the language that you're studying. So, of course, if you are lucky enough to live in the country or to live in a place where people speak the language you're studying, great. But you have to go out and interact with people. You have to put yourself in a place where you have no choice but to speak. It's very hard and it's very scary and it's very embarrassing at first. But if you take time to find places and to make environments that are comfortable for you, where you feel comfortable making mistakes and asking questions, it's very valuable for your learning process. This is actually something that I did. I totally did this. My Japanese wasn't very good for a long time, but then I started making friends who could not speak English. Actually, I just did this through finding hobbies. There was a hobby that I had. I joined a group. I joined actually a school where I could learn how to do that hobby. And everything was taught only in Japanese. And the people in my class only spoke Japanese, mostly. And then maybe we would go out for drinks and food late at night or on the weekends, and everybody spoke only Japanese. And if I couldn't communicate even simply in Japanese, I had no hope of keeping that friendship together. So it forced me to study. It forced me to think about the words they were using, and to try to learn those words, those patterns, as well as how to produce them naturally myself. So I was learning the vocabulary words the people around me were using and learning how to apply them on my own. That was only possible because I had no escape in those situations. So try to do that, even if you can do it yourself in your house. It's super helpful, I think. Watch TV and movies in your target language without subtitles. Tip number 4 is to watch TV and movies in your target language without subtitles. So I think that watching with subtitles can be very beneficial. So if I'm watching something, or if you want to watch something with subtitles on, great. But I sometimes find that in my case, I think too much about reading the subtitles and I forget to listen. So maybe if you've seen a movie in your target language a few times with the subtitles on, try turning the subtitles off and think about the character's body language, the words they're using. You can always look that up later. Look up the words you don't know in a dictionary, but try to do it where you're focusing completely on the way that people are using their words. Try not to use the subtitles. So kind of play around with it a little bit. If there's a word that's difficult for you to hear, you can actually turn on the subtitles in the native language of the movie as well. That's something that I've done. If I wanted to study Japanese, it's very useful when the actual words spoken in Japanese appear on the screen. Sometimes it's easier for me to catch a word if I see it visually and I hear it at the same time. So another way to kind of explore how you can use TV and movies is to actually turn on the closed captions, like the words on the screen in the native language of the movie. So this is sort of 2 points in one. So 1, watch movies without subtitles, meaning subtitles in your native language. And hint 2 is to watch movies with closed captioning on, but the closed captioning is in your target language, not in your native language. So you can try those 2 things with TV and with movies. Don't bring a dictionary to your lesson. Tip number 5 is don't bring a dictionary to your lesson. Okay, so give me a second here. So I understand that dictionaries, especially electronic dictionaries, we have them on our phones now, are very, very convenient. Of course, it's important to use them, and they're a great resource to have. However, one thing that really bothers me and that I think is detrimental, it's not helpful for students, is when students are in a lesson and they're practicing conversation and they reach a point in the conversation where they don't know the word they want to use. They know it in their native language and they don't know how to say it in their target language. They pull out their dictionary. They say to the person listening to them, their practice partner in their lesson where they have a limited period of time, just a moment. And then they look it up on their phone and it takes a few seconds, the flow of the conversation stops, and then they say a word. And it's like, whoa, no, you don't have that ability. You don't have the ability to do that in a conversation with a native speaker. Most people, if you go to a bank and try to open a bank account, are you really going to pull out your dictionary and sit there and try to communicate, just a moment, as you look up each word you don't know? No. Or if you do, that's not a real conversation. So instead, try using a different strategy. By that I mean, if you find a word you don't know in conversation, explain the word to your conversation partner. Maybe they know the word. If you're speaking with a native speaker, this is a chance for them to teach you a word. I find that when people take the time to teach me a word, I remember the word much better than just looking it up on my dictionary. So try to resist. Maybe you can bring a dictionary to your lesson, but don't use it or try not to use it in your conversation practice. It destroys the flow of a conversation. So instead, practice the skill of describing the vocabulary word you want to use and learn how to ask the meaning of a word or learn how to ask for a vocabulary word from your partner. So you can use an expression like, what's the word that means blah, blah, blah. Or, it's this thing that does this and this and this. So this is an opportunity for you to describe characteristics of something or find a different way. You can use your body language. You can use whatever. You have a lot of tools, but try not to use a dictionary in a conversation because it's not realistic. Train responses to common questions. Number 6 is a quick one, I think. Hint number 6 I have is just to train responses to common questions. Train responses to common questions. So, for example, a very common question in English is, hey, how are you? You should know how to answer this question. Just have a default response. Hey, how are you? I'm good. If it takes you a long time to answer the question, hey, how are you? You need to practice. I think that's a pretty good indicator. So, for example, sometimes I ask students a question like that they haven't quite gotten the idea of how to respond just yet. They're not so quick at responding. I say, hey, how are you? And they say, yes. And then they think and they go, I'm good. And it's like, that's a very common question. So think about just a default response that you can spit out, that you can quickly say. If it's, how was your weekend? Or, hey, what's up? Or, what do you want to do for dinner tonight? Think about just a handful, meaning just a few responses to those questions and train them quickly. Just, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm okay. How are you? Not bad. There's 3. So it's just training responses to those questions. There's no reason to be surprised by a question like, how are you? That's a very common question. So for those common questions, train responses to that. We've got a bunch of videos, especially beginner level videos for some example responses you can do. So don't get stuck with these little questions. Just train a few responses, practice a few responses till they feel natural to you. It'll save you time and it'll help the person asking the question too to move forward in the conversation. Yay! Study with materials that don't provide a translation. The next tip is to study with materials that don't provide a translation. So by this I mean, if you're using worksheets or some kind of textbook or whatever, and it has your target language, the language you're studying, and it has your native language next to it. While this can be useful, I feel that if you can, studying your materials only in your target language and then simplified explanations for more detailed points, also in your target language, can be a little bit better. So I don't want to say you should only study things in your target language and nothing from your native language, because of course it can be helpful sometimes to look up a word or to understand a grammar point in your native language. But where possible, if you can find something that provides simplified explanations in your target language, it can be really, really helpful because, again, you're learning to think on a simpler, on a more basic level about the language you're studying in the language that you're studying. So this can be really, really good. So finding some materials to use where there's no translation. Maybe you can practice, of course, with books and with written materials, but also with video materials as well. So there are a variety of different ways that you can find materials in your target language. in video and TV. So some things to think about there are the level of vocabulary words people are using in the media content you're watching, who the media content is intended for, children, young adults, the speed at which the speaker is talking. So like I have the ability to change the level of difficulty of videos based on the rate of speech, the vocabulary words that I use, and how many like idioms and things I use. So I could make a video very difficult. We could make a very difficult video series by leveling up our vocabulary use or by speaking very quickly. Or, as you might see in like our English in 3 Minutes series, we can also use very simple vocabulary and speak at a low rate of speech. So maybe right now this is a very intermediate level video. So please think about that. So not just for written materials, but also for your audio and visual materials. Think about who your audience is, the level of the material, and so on. It can be really fun. And it can be helpful to think about your target language in your target language. All right, we're almost done. Study phrases in addition to single vocabulary. The next tip is study phrases in addition to single vocabulary words. So yes, of course, vocabulary is important, but I find it personally very, very useful to look at how a vocabulary word is used in a phrase, because sometimes using it in a phrase helps you understand the nuance of that vocabulary word really, really well. So if like a word like crazy, for example, in English, depending on the situation where the word crazy is used, it could mean something different. It could mean like a person who is mentally confused or mixed up. It could also mean something really good. It could mean something really bad. So if we look only at the word crazy, it's quite difficult to understand really the meaning of the word. But if you look at the way the word is used in a phrase, you can get a lot more information. So take a look at the way people use words in phrases, not just as single vocabulary words. You can learn a lot more that way, I think. Do your daily activities in English where possible. The next tip is to do your daily activities in your target language. So if you're studying English, that means try to do some daily activities in English if possible. So this can be very, very boring stuff, but just think about it when you're doing the activity. So like right now, I'm filming a video for EnglishClass101.com, or I'm going to work, I'm cooking breakfast, I'm doing the laundry. What do I have to do tomorrow? So try thinking about your everyday life in English if you're studying English. Try thinking about your everyday activities, the people that you meet. What are you doing? So this is a way to help you practice your verbs. So if you don't know, if you're, you're doing something at work and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I explain what's the verb for, a picture? Like I want to blah, 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 a picture. What's the word? You can check a dictionary at that point and go, it's draw. I need to use the verb draw for draw a picture. So you can find these little gaps in your everyday life, these little gaps in your knowledge, if you think about your everyday activities in your target language. If you don't think about it in your target language, you might not realize you have vocabulary gaps or phrase gaps here and there. So this is a really good and kind of funny, actually, way to study. Use a learner's dictionary for new words. The last tip is to use a learner's dictionary for new words. So in English, there are learner's dictionaries available in English. So my personal favorite is Merriam-Webster. Merriam-Webster is a fantastic dictionary resource. They're so interesting and they have tons of historical information. I really do just sit and read things on the dictionary page lately. It's true. But of course, there's a definition, there's a meaning for words, there are example sentences for words, but Merriam-Webster also has what's called a learner's dictionary. If you find a word that you don't recognize, you can check it in a dictionary, in a learner's dictionary, and it gives you a simple explanation in simple English of that word. So instead of checking it in your native language, you can check it in your target language. So again, this helps you to understand the word that you're focused on, but you understand it from the language you're studying, not from your native language. So using a learner's dictionary can be really, really useful as well. All right, so those are 10 tips. Those are 10 tips to help you stop translating in your head. I know it's very difficult, but it takes time and it takes practice, and I hope that these are a few strategies that can help you as you study any language. Of course, this is an English language channel, an English language learning channel, but I think these tips are pretty good for learning just about any language, really. So I hope those are useful for you. If you have tried these strategies, or if you have any other comments or other tips, please let us know in the comment section below this video. If you liked this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up, share this video, and subscribe to our channel too. Check us out at EnglishClass101.com for more good stuff as well. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Top Words, and I will see you again soon. Bye!
Hi everyone, I'm Bridget and welcome to today's lesson. Today's topic is 10 ways to say hello in English. Good morning. Good morning is the first thing you say to someone when you see them in the morning. Good morning, sir. Would you like a cup of coffee? Good morning. Could I please get some orange juice? Good morning. I'm still tired from the night before. Hello. Hello is the most common greeting you'll hear. That and hi. Hello is a polite, nice way to greet someone when you see them. Hello. Everyone says it. You cannot go wrong saying hello. Hello can be used at any time of the day, no matter whether it's morning or at night or at 4 a.m. When you see someone, you can say hello and it will still be appropriate. Long time no see. Long time no see. It's not necessarily grammatically correct, but it's a saying that we have. Hey, long time no see. What it means is that you haven't seen that person in a long time. So it literally means long time no see. Long time no see is something you say to someone when you haven't seen them in a while. Hey, John. Long time no see. How are the wife and kids? How have you been? Hey, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a long time. How have you been is asking someone how they're doing and how they've been for the past however long if you haven't seen them in a while. You might say, hey, long time no see. How have you been? How have you been? That's past tense. It implies that you haven't seen them in a while and you want to hear about how they are and how they've been for all of that time that you haven't seen them. Hey, long time no see. How have you been? How are you? How are you means how are you doing? How are you feeling? How is everything? It's a standard thing that you might say to anyone, even if you've seen them the day before. You might see them today and say, hey, how are you? How's it going? Hey, how's it going? How's it going is a more informal way to say, how are you? So, how are you and how's it going, they mean the same thing. It's asking how you are doing, how you are feeling. Is everything okay with you? What's up? What's up is another way of saying, hey, how's it going? But this one is even more informal. So you might say this to friends. Hey, what's up? And they'll say, nothing. Just living my life, day in and day out. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you? Would you like some lunch? Good afternoon is a polite way to greet someone in the afternoon. So if you run into your boss, you might say, good afternoon. It's very nice. It's polite. Not a lot of people say it to their friends, but it's a polite way to greet someone. Good evening. Good evening is a nice way to greet someone in the evening time. You can only use this phrase in the evening because it's wishing someone a good evening. It's saying hello at a certain time of day. Good evening. Would you like some dinner? Good evening. Have you eaten yet? All of my examples involve food, it seems. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you. This is something that's very common to say the first time that you meet someone. You might shake their hand and say, hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Bridget. My name is... It's telling that person that you are happy to be meeting them. It's a pleasure to meet them. Hi, it's nice to meet you. That brings us to the end of this lesson, 10 ways to say hello. If you guys liked the video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And don't forget to go to EnglishClass101.com for more English.
Okay, everybody. Shift information has been posted for the month. It looks like we'll visit 25 cities in 30 days.
Do we normally visit 25 different cities in 1 month?
Yes, sometimes we visit even more.
Where's our first stop?
Charlotte.
Hey, I have friends in Charlotte. It would be nice to see them. Good evening, in-room dining. This is Alex. How may I be of service?
Hello, I would like to order some food.
Of course, ma'am. Just to confirm, this is Mrs. Rawson in room 417?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. May I take your order?
Yes, I would like a turkey sandwich on a Parmesan bagel,
And what to drink?
a Diet Coke.
Will there be anything else?
Yes, I would also like a wake-up call for 7.
My major is education. How about you?
I'm an English major.
Cool. I like English. Oh, and what's Oksana's major?
She's also an English major.
That's nice. You can help each other study.
Yep. In fact, I need to meet her now so we can study together.
Okay. It was nice talking with you.
You too. See you later.
See ya.
Good evening, ma'am. May I have your first and last names?
Melissa West.
Thank you, ma'am. I have found your reservation. Here's the registration information. Does everything look correct to you?
Yes, it seems to be correct.
Excellent. Now, I will just need a photo ID for legal purposes.
Will my passport do?
That would be just fine, ma'am. Checkout is between noon and 2 o'clock. You may request an extension of up to 5 hours free of charge.
What if I need more time?
Then a late charge of 5% will be added to your bill.
Hey Vicky, did you forget our study date at 10 this morning?
I'm sorry, Naomi. At 10, I was talking with my professor and couldn't get away. I'm sorry. I should have called.
That's okay. So, how did the meeting go with the professor?
It went fine. He gave me an extension on my paper and I can still take the midterm. How was your study group yesterday?
Well, we were studying together during lunch when I noticed an old friend of mine from high school in the same cafe. My concentration quickly switched from class to catching up with my friend, so I didn't get much done. You've taken that class before, right?
Yeah, last semester. I was always asking questions in that class because it was so difficult.
Well, I was hoping that you could lend me a hand with my paper. I can't think of anything else to write.
Sure, no problem. That is, if you can help me study for our history test.
Sounds like a deal.
Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Christine from EnglishClass101.com. In this video, we'll be talking about how to curse like an English native speaker. Piss, a slang term for urine. For example, don't piss your pants. You can say this when you're really scared or anxious. For example, if you're about to go on stage to make a speech or perform, someone can say, don't piss your pants. You can do it. Pissed off, to be really angry. When I'm angry, I can say, hey, I'm really pissed off at you right now. Why did you do that for? Loser, used to describe an uncool person. In high school, my friends and I would use this a lot, and we would say, hey loser, how's it going? Idiot, used to insult people by saying they're not intelligent. Of all the mean things that you can say, this is on the lighter side, but people still use it. Shoot, This is used to show disappointment or frustration without using a stronger curse word. Shoot, I spilled my coffee! Shut up! You can use this when you want them to be quiet, or there's something surprising that you just heard. You can say, shut up, no way. Ticked off, to be really angry. You can say this with pissed off. So this is actually an older term. Not many people use this as much anymore because most people actually just use pissed off. Fool. This is similar to saying someone is like a clown. You can say, you're acting like a fool right now. Jerk. This is a light insult used to describe someone who is mean. For example, if there's someone bullying another person, that person is being a jerk. Wimp. This means someone who isn't strong. There is a movie out right now called Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Have you seen it? Have you not? I haven't yet. So how was it? If you have any more questions, please leave a comment below. See you next time.
Hey everyone, I'm Paris from EnglishClass101.com. In this video, we're talking about how to ask and give directions. Let's start. To the left, to the left. The first phrase is, where is the? Where is the? For example, you can ask, where is the bank? This can be used to ask for a general location or detailed directions. Don't be surprised if you only receive basic information. For example, next to the grocery store. The next phrase is, I need to go to the. I need to go to the. For example, you can say, I need to go to the police station. The word need is used, but this is used for non-emergencies as well. How do I get to the? How do I get to the? For example, you can say, how do I get to the museum? This question can be used to ask for step-by-step directions instead of a general location. Is the near here? Is the near here? For example, you can say, is the library near here? If you're unfamiliar with an area, you can ask to get this information about a specific place where you want to go. Is the bathroom near here? Excuse me, do you know where the is? Excuse me, do you know where the is? For example, you can say, excuse me, do you know where the park is? Only use excuse me when you're starting a conversation with a stranger. Another common phrase is the far from here? Is the far from here? For example, you can say, is the post office far from here? This is an indirect way to ask for directions. People will tell you how far the place is and probably tell you the best way to get there. Walking, taking a bus, driving, Uber. Now let's take a look at expressions to give directions. Turn left. Turn left. For example, you can say, turn left after 2 blocks. This gives you information about how far you should go before you make any changes. In this case, you should go left. To the left, to the left. Turn right. Turn right. For example, you can say, turn right at the 3rd traffic light. This also gives you information about how far you should go before taking another action. In this case, you should go right. Go straight. Go straight. This simply tells you to go in one direction. It also implies that if you keep going straight, that you will eventually find what you're looking for. Go past. Go past. For example, you can say, go past the church. A landmark is just an easily noticeable place, for example, a movie, theater, restaurant, at the corner of. At the corner of. For example, you can say, it's at the corner of. This means that a place is located at the corner where 2 streets meet. In front of. In front of. For example, you can say, the bus station is in front of the supermarket. We use front to refer to the main entrance of a building. It can also mean visible from the front, and doesn't necessarily mean it's directly in front of something. Behind. Behind. For example, you can say, the parking lot is behind the movie theater. We use behind to say that something is at the rear of a building. The front of a building is its main entrance, so which side it's facing the street is really not important. Next to. Next to. For example, you can say, the restaurant is next to the park. This is an example of using a non-specific location to give general directions. Next to can be anywhere beside, in front of, or around a place. McDonald's is next to my house. Between. Between. For example, you can say, the store is between the coffee shop and the pet store. Between is used with two other places. When using between, the main place will always be in the middle of the two other places. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Which phrase do you like the most? Leave us a comment and let us know. And I'll see you next time, guys. Bye. Hey guys, I'm Paris from EnglishClass101.com. In this video, we'll be talking about making complaints in English. So let's get started. The first complaint is, I'm starving. I'm starving. This is an exaggeration you can use when you're hungry. I am always starving, even right now. The next complaint is, it's noisy. It's noisy. This kind of complaint is one that you would make to a friend. Telling the staff of a restaurant won't help, since they can't tell people to be quiet. I hate when it's noisy in restaurants. Save that for another time. Then we have, it's hot. It's hot. This can be used to talk about the weather or the temperature of a room. You can add a request like, can you turn on the air conditioner? I am never hot, so I like that. The next complaint is, it's cold. It's cold. This can be used to talk about the weather or the temperature of a room. You can add a request like, can you turn on the heater? I always make this request because it's always too cold everywhere. Everywhere. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. Even if you have enough money to buy something, it may be more money than you want to spend. It would probably be considered rude to say this to someone who works at a store. But I always think, okay, I'm in Gucci, it's way too expensive. Another common complaint is, I'm tired. I'm tired. Use this complaint to imply that you want to sit down, relax, go home, take a break. When I babysit my 5-year-old cousin, I leave thinking, I'm tired. The next complaint is, I gained weight. I gained weight. This is a self-criticism that implies that you want to lose weight. Many people say, I got so fat. I'm always broke. I'm always broke. Use this to complain about never having enough money. I am always broke because I always want more money. The next complaint is, my job is boring. My job is boring. This is a really common complaint used by people who don't think their jobs are very exciting. Usually it means that you want to find a different, more fun job. It's alright, teachers, your job isn't boring. That person stinks. That person stinks. You can use stinks to talk about a literal physical smell or a general insult meaning that you don't like how someone smells. I hate when people smell on the bus. Not good. Not okay. The next complaint is, there's too much traffic. There's too much traffic. This is a common complaint among people who commute to work by car. Certain roads are especially bad during rush hour, which is the time in the morning or night most people are going home or to work. If I left at, it was 7 p.m., I would be here in 10 minutes. But because it's daytime in LA, it took me 30 minutes to get here, and I drive really, really fast. And it still took me 30 minutes. The next complaint is, the Wi-Fi here is too slow. The Wi-Fi here is too slow. This is just a general complaint you may have about the internet speed. If you're at a cafe or somewhere with Wi-Fi, you can request that they reset the Wi-Fi to improve the speed. If you're having a party and you're having friends over and your Wi-Fi is too slow, you might as well end that party now. No Wi-Fi, no party. My boss is annoying. My boss is annoying. Annoying can be used to mean that someone does things that you don't like or they ask you to do things that you don't like. Either way, an annoying boss is a bad experience. I am very familiar with this. Hey Paris, grab me coffee. Hey Paris, check my emails. My boss is annoying, but don't tell him I said that. The pay is too low. The pay is too low. You can use this to complain about how much you make or to reject a job offer because it doesn't pay enough. I'm a surgeon. The pay is too low. I don't like it. I don't like it. This is a very general complaint that can be used for almost anything. What don't I like? Posting 1,000 selfies on Instagram. I don't like it. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Which complaint do you like more? Leave us a comment and let me know. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You just got a text message from your hotel's pickup service. What does the first number refer to? What does the first number refer to? The number in the text message refers to the customer code.
You are at a train station where you've just bought an express ticket. Which train car, row, and seat number are you in? Which train car, row, and seat number are you in? The ticket says that you're in train car number 1 in the 8th row in seat C. You are at a train station where you're attempting to buy an express ticket from a ticket machine. Which option should you choose to buy an express ticket? Which option should you choose to buy an express ticket? The option on the bottom left is for an express ticket. You are on a platform at a train station where you're waiting for your train. Suddenly, a message appears on the display. What does the message on the display mean? What does the message on the display mean? The display reads, "The next train will not stop." You are at a train station where you're reading the train schedule for an express ticket that you've just bought. On which days are there no express trains running? On which days are there no express trains running? There are no express trains running on public holidays and the third Sunday of every month. Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com. You are on a platform at a train station where you're waiting for your train. Suddenly, a message appears on the display. What does the message on the display mean? What does the message on the display mean? The display reads, "The next train will not stop." You are at a train station where you're looking for the best exit to catch a taxi. Which exit should you take to get to the taxi stop? Which exit should you take to get to the taxi stop? You should take the east exit in order to get to the taxi stop.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia, and today I am joined again in the studio by
Michael. Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about things that were cool in the 90s. So things that were interesting or things that maybe we were interested in the 90s. I'm guessing that we're going to have some very different opinions based on our experiences at the 90s. So let's get right into it. Michael, your first item, please.
Okay. Boy bands. So I remember boy bands were very, very popular when I was a kid in the 90s. I had 3 older brothers who would punch me and tell me boy bands are for girls, don't like boy bands. So that was my experience with them. And they became kind of uncool, I feel like, after the 90s. And then they never were uncool in like Korea and like a lot of Asian countries. They still had like a strong boy band kind of scene or whatever.
Man bands now.
Is that really what they're called?
No, I don't know. I just mean, I feel like there are boy bands.
That are now becoming boys to men. Maybe that's the... So, I mean, now it came back. Like, what's the British one? Now it's kind of cool again.
Oh, One Direction.
One Direction, yeah. So I think it's come back. It's full circle.
Didn't they just break up? I'm going to go with something that I loved in the 90s. This is probably way too specific. Probably. But it's this show called Doug that was on Nickelodeon. And there weren't a whole lot of episodes of Doug. It was, I don't know, like 20 or 30, I feel like. Not even that many. Did you ever see this show?
Yeah. That's very nostalgic for me. 20, 30 episodes?
I feel like I'd seen them all, so I know that I saw them all because it would come on one day after school and I'd be like, oh, I've seen this episode. But the whole idea with Doug is Doug was like this plain kid, and he had an older sister, he went to school, he had a dog, he had a best friend, and he would just encounter these everyday life scenarios that would be kind of troubling, or he wouldn't know how to deal with them. But like he was kind of a role model, I feel like. He was kind of being like a good kid. Or sometimes he would get into trouble, but then, eventually he would solve the problem or he'd find a way out of it. So, but I really loved that show. I really loved Nickelodeon in general during the 90s. And yeah, did you watch that channel?
Yeah, of course. I loved Nickelodeon. I think I was more like Fox, stuff like that. But I guess I'll segue into another one of mine. You're talking about wholesome. So something that's my childhood. I was raised on TV with sitcoms.
Yeah.
So I think this has kind of died down again, like the boy bands, where people think it's cheesy. Now it's all reality TV shows, that kind of stuff. But that is my childhood right there. Is Full House and these kinds of shows, step by step, where there's a moral at the end of the story. And so there's always kind of like the protagonist is always like maybe he's unsure, but by the end they know the right thing to do, and they play like the violin, kind of sad, not quite sad, but like heartwarming music, and then they're like, well, and then they give a speech. And as a kid, you don't really like think about it, but that gets into your like man, deep because of Full House. If you lie, I've learned this. It's deep in my subconscious. If you lie, and then you keep lying, it snowballs. And it gets worse and worse and worse. So it's best to just right away tell the truth. That was a really common theme in most sitcoms, I think. That like they're just trying to teach kids, don't lie, it's bad.
Yeah, you're right. Sitcoms are huge. And by the way, sitcoms is a portmanteau meaning two words put together, of situation and comedy. So situation and comedy equals sitcom in this case. Okay, nice. I'm going to go to my next one. Let's see. I think probably every little girl in the 90s in America anyway knew what this was. I don't know if you knew. It's this brand called Lisa Frank. Lisa Frank. Are you aware of Lisa Frank? Are you aware of Lisa Frank? No? Okay. She knows. She knows who Lisa Frank is. So Lisa Frank is just bright. It was always like brightly colored school supplies. Like pinks and purples and blues, and it would always have unicorns and dolphins and mystical creatures. It was just bright, and everybody, all the girls loved it. I loved it. I had Lisa Frank, just whatever I could get my hands on. It'd be pencils or erasers or just pinks and rainbows and hearts and stuff like that. So I think every girl who grew up in the 90s knows what Lisa Frank is.
Okay. So talking about style and whatnot, grunge. Grunge is something that hits close to home for me, and I think that came out of the 90s. Is everybody knows around the world. I think most people know Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, and this is something that I guess was brought to the world from Seattle, and it was a music genre, and it was it's like rock, but sometimes slower, almost emo, kind of like sad, usually undertones. But anyways, the style that came with it was the opposite of like the 80s and early 90s of really bright colors. It was the opposite. You just wear holey jeans, you don't really shower that much, you don't shave, and like plaid and just really like dreary colors. So that was really popular. At least I remember in like the early 90s, like mid 90s.
And it's as soon as I saw that card grunge, I was like, oh, Nirvana. That's the first thing that comes to mind when I hear grunge. I didn't get into the grunge scene though. I was busy with boy bands, but like grunge for me was never really. I was aware of Nirvana, but I was not of the Nirvana pod. Okay, I'm going to go to a style point then too, because you've brought up a style point. I'll bring up maybe a female style point. Scrunchies, still popular perhaps among some people. What is a scrunchie? A scrunchie, let's see, I don't have, so there's regular rubber bands that you can use to tie back long hair. He's making an O shape with his hands. Yes, this is very descriptive, Michael. Thank you for that.
I'm the prop, and then you go like this. Digga, 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 digga. There's like the.
I bet there's an awesome video team somewhere that can put like a scrunchie like right here. Anyway, a scrunchie is just a piece of elastic with some kind of colorful cloth wrapped around it, but when not in use, it would go and it would scrunch. I think this is why we call it a scrunchie. But then when you pulled on it, you could expand it a bit and wrap your hair up in it. And then when you were finished doing that, it would kind of close around it. I had a couple.
Nintendo, any game-related stuff. I remember Game Boys, anything handheld. Except when I was a kid, it wasn't like this fancy 3D, highly like vibrant colors. Mm-hmm. It was like black and white, and like you'd play it in the car and you had to squint and it hurts your head, if you're playing too much, you're getting like car sick and you're like, you can barely see Mario.
Are you talking about Game Boy?
Game Boy. Or any, like there was handheld too. There was like Atari and stuff like that, and like Sega. Sega was pretty good, that would light up.
I was thinking about NES when you said Nintendo. I imagined my NES. The one that like when it wasn't working correctly, you could just pull the cassette out and be like, and put it back in.
So you put the cartridge in here, right? And sometimes if it was really stubborn and it didn't work, you would blow into this part. And you try, and it really doesn't make a difference. But you would take turns. Like me and my brothers would be like, no, you want to be the one to get it to work. So you take turns, you're like, no, let me. And just by luck, it would work. And you're like, see, yeah. No, this is super nostalgic. I love Nintendo.
I have a game too. Pogs. Did you have Pogs?
Yeah.
Okay, Pogs are simultaneously the most brilliant game and the stupidest game ever invented. They're just discs of cardboard about this size. And on one side, there's a picture. And on the other side, there's just nothing. And then you had a thing called a slammer, which was essentially just a heavy Pog that you would use. And you had to use the slammer to flip the plain cardboard ones. What? I don't even know. It was that stupid and forgettable of a game. But it was like crazy when I was about, I don't know, like 2nd or 3rd grade or something. Everybody had Pogs. Like we had Pog gym days at my school. I remember this vividly.
America, we're really obese. Let's go into the gym and sit there and smash cardboard. That'll solve the problem.
We played Pogs. And like I was telling her before we started this, like one day, like my mom wanted me to get a haircut and I was just being stubborn and I wasn't having it. I was in the mall. I was like, I don't want to get a haircut. She's like, I'll buy you Pogs. And she did. It was like this giant tube of Pogs and I was just so thrilled and I agreed to get my haircut. Well, that was a lot of things that were exciting and or popular and or we were into in the 90s. What were you into in the 90s? What was popular in your country? I really have no idea what was popular around the world at that time. Maybe some of these things are similar. Please let us know in the comments. I'm very interested to find out. We read these, by the way. Any thoughts? Any closing thoughts about the 90s? You're not going to sing a song for us? No boy band songs?
Oh, that's copyright. We can't do that. Just like blur that all out.
No, that was very accurate, so I'm sure we can use that. And by very accurate, I mean totally wrong. Clearly, we're very good at talking about the 90s. Okay, but we hope that you are too. We hope that you learned something exciting about the 90s. That's all for us today. Thanks very much for watching, and we will see you again soon. Bye! Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined again in the studio by
Michael. Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about English conversation strategies. So let's get right into it. Let's start with Michael. What is your first strategy for keeping an English conversation going?
This is very important. Don't say, I'm fine, thank you, and you. You hear this all the time from second language English learners or non-native speakers. You learn this, it's one of the first things you learn in an English class. It's easy, it's good, it's basic, it's foundation. Okay, that's fine. But as soon as you can, switch it up. Because to me, when I meet a foreigner, they come up, and if they say, hey, how are you? Say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, whatever. How about you? And they say, I'm fine, thank you, and you. And it's almost robotic because I've said it so many times. And when I hear that, I think, their English isn't that good. And inside, I'm just gonna be really polite and say, hello, and talk slowly and try to get out of there as quick as I can. So really impress the foreigner. In my opinion, I think the best way to do it is say something, use a big word or just like a slang word, something like that. When I hear that, I go, wow, man, I want to know what this person thinks. I want to get their point of view and I'm really excited. And then I've had great conversations because of that.
That's a really, really good one. And actually, I think on this YouTube channel, from a couple years ago, there's a video all about better answers to the question, how are you, than I'm fine, thank you, and you. Or if someone says, hey, how are you? I go, I'm good, you? Or fine, you? Never, I'm fine, thank you, and you. Never. But try to actually use, a phrase that a native speaker would use. And then that's a clue to the native speaker that, oh, maybe this person is ready for a conversation beyond, basic English. So that's a really good point. I like that. I didn't think of things not to do. I only thought of things to do. So, okay, cool. Let's see. Let's go to my first one. So, this strategy in general is just ask the other person a question. I think, and I'm guilty of this too when I'm learning another language, I tend to only get input. Like somebody else is always asking me the questions, and then I forget myself to ask the other person a question. So one question that I like to ask, or, a variation, any kind of WH question is good, like a who question, what, where. Something like this, if you've been paying attention, you can use anyway to transition in your conversation. This was in a previous video. You can ask something like, anyway, up to anything fun this weekend? This is a pretty casual conversational question that you can ask just about anybody, whether you've just met them or whether you've known them for a while. But just get in the habit of asking other people the question. Don't wait for someone else to ask you the question. So that's one strategy that I try to use to keep things going.
Yeah, me too. I agree. And I'm going to say samesies because actually 2 of my questions were exactly what you said. Agree 100%. This is kind of cheating. These should be 1. But so always ask questions. So, again, you forget. It's really easy. I'm really guilty of this. English, non-English, whatever. I'm guilty of this. And the other thing is ask deep, open-ended questions. So if you ask a yes or no question, so again, like Alicia was saying, it just dead ends. You can't just say, do you like cheese? Yes or no, right? So you want to say, what do you think about cheese? What is your favorite kind? And kind of open it up to something else and let it just kind of snowball.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's really a key. Like I have another variation on it, which I guess I'll just continue on to because it kind of relates to what you're talking about. Like he's saying, always ask questions, always ask deep, open-ended questions. So like you just said, don't ask a yes or no question because yes or no ends with the yes or the no. So one of the things that I'll do is use a pattern similar to this, like, hey, did you see or hey, did you hear about blah, blah, blah. So you can use this little blah, blah, blah as your, you can ask about the news. You can ask about something funny you saw on the internet. You can ask about, something that you heard from another friend of yours, whatever. It's just a way to check in with the other person and say, oh, did you also experience this thing that I experienced? Let's talk about that. So that might be another question that you can use with people.
I like that one. I really like that one because you got to stay within people's comfort zone. So maybe you ask and maybe they don't want to, right? So a good thing is, did you hear about it? That's up to them. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. They can say, oh yeah, I heard about that. And you can kind of feel the atmosphere and realize, maybe I shouldn't talk about this, change the subject. Or they get passionate and they start talking about it. And there you go. And just let it go. Yeah, absolutely. One thing, again, I'm guilty of is you do got to keep returning it.
Right.
Don't just say, oh yeah, and what I think about da-da-da-da-da. Bring it back, ask them, what about you? That's a common thing I forget about.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I have one more. This one, use when you see fit. I'll just introduce it. Compliment the other person or compliment the other persons. This can be a nice strategy just to show that you're enjoying the other person's company. It can be as simple as, oh, I like your shirt today, or oh, that's a nice dress you're wearing today, or oh, did you get a new haircut? That looks good on you, something like that. So this is a nice way to make the other person maybe want to spend more time with you, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 2 things. One, I think it's a good conversation starter sometimes. If you got to be careful. With a stranger, it can be creepy. It can be a little uncomfortable what you're complimenting, right? But if it's something like if they have a t-shirt and it's a band that you both like, that's a great conversation starter. And you feel, wow, we're connected, Number 2, the second thing I was thinking about is that keep it honest. I love a sincere compliment. It really means a lot more. And it really does butter them up, kind of get them open to having more conversations, deeper, that kind of thing. But one of the things people do, which I don't like, is let's say they say, hey, nice shirt. And then the person out of habit will say, oh, you too, I like your shirt too. Just my opinion, I don't think this feels really natural, doesn't really feel sincere. So I would save it, make a mental note and go, I need to return the favor. I need to give them a compliment. But wait until you notice something you really do like and say, hey, actually, I love blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like when you can sense whether someone is being sincere or not. What is your next strategy for continuing an English conversation?
Well, don't be afraid to open up. I like this one. I think this is good. A lot of people will be kind of shy. They won't open up too much. Again, within your comfort zone. But I like this one because people will return the favor. Because if you're just having small talk and you say, the weather's nice today, blah, 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 you can only go so far. So don't be afraid to say something personal. Again, trust your judgment. Don't be a creeper. We don't want to hear certain things about your life.
So don't be a creep. Don't be a creep. Don't be weird. Don't be strange. And like what you're saying about opening up. Open up is just a phrase that means share something about yourself. So it can be as simple as what you did last weekend or what you're going to do this weekend or a project that you have coming up. It doesn't mean that you have to spill all of your life secrets to the other person, but just showing that you're willing to share something more personal about yourself can help ingratiate yourself, or can help, you know, make the other person, help the other person understand you a little bit better. That's a good tip. I like that tip. That's hard to do though. It's hard. It's a little bit scary, I think, to share parts of yourself, but it's good. It's a good way to meet people and make friends. All right. I think that's all. Is that all that you have?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, those are some interesting strategies to keep an English conversation going. So give them a try. If you're ever at a loss for words and don't know what to say, you can try one of these strategies, and hopefully it will help you out. Please let us know if you have any other strategies or anything else that you would like to use or you try to use when you are having trouble keeping a conversation going. Leave us a comment and let us know what it is. We will see you again next time. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
That's about it.
All right. So thanks very much for joining us, and take care. Bye-bye.
Top 10 language learning strategies. Let's begin. Befriending or dating someone who speaks English. Watching movies or listening to music in English. Read English newspapers or magazines. Record your voice and compare your pronunciation with native English speakers. Download dialogue tracks and listen to English conversations. Repeat the phrases that you hear out loud again and again. Review all the lessons on EnglishClass101.com to master them completely. Read lines slowly at first, then reread and increase your speed. Set small and measurable learning goals with your personal deadlines. Try harder lessons to challenge yourself and improve faster.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to talk about 10 ways to express fear and surprise. Let's get started. Yeah, you scared me. The first expression is, you scared me. You scared me. So to scare is the verb here, and we're using the past tense, you scared me. So you caused me to be frightened. You scared me. We use this when we feel surprised or scared. So your friend suddenly jumps out from behind. You scared me. I thought you tipped over a liquid onto the camera. So you scared me. It's like, yeah, oh my gosh, you frightened me. In other words, you caused me to be afraid. In a sentence, you scared me. You scared the out of me. The next expression is, you scared the something out of me. You scared the blah, blah, blah out of me. In the blah, blah, blah here, in the space, we can use a lot of different words. Some of them are really, really rude words. You might have heard a few of these on like TV shows or in English-speaking movies. So in this lesson, I'm going to introduce like some kind of not so rude words. You can use, you scared like the bejesus out of me. You scared the heck out of me. You scared the hell out of me. So it's a more extreme version of you scared me. So you scared the something out of me. Like the image is, I was so frightened that something came out of my body. And it's usually like a negative or like a rude word we use to emphasize how frightened we were. You scared the hell out of me. Oh my gosh. So that's kind of a common expression. So in a sentence, geez, you scared the hell out of me. That really freaks me out. The next expression is, that really freaks me out. That really freaks me out. So to freak someone out, or like to freak out, is like to cause a strong emotion that's kind of a negative, nervous emotion, or that's just, you feel like you're kind of overflowing with either like nervousness or like excitement. To freak out has a couple of different meanings. But when you say, that really freaks me out, it's kind of a negative, like sort of scared emotion. So in a sentence, cockroaches really freak me out. So you feel like uncomfortable. It's kind of like this gross, like creepy, crawly feeling about it. It's like, that freaks me out. So that's one use. That really freaks me out. I'm freaking out right now. The next expression is I'm freaking out, or I'm freaking out right now. So in the last expression, we saw that really freaks me out. In this expression, we say I'm freaking out in the progressive tense. I'm freaking out, which means like I'm super, super, super excited, or I'm like super, like I have so much energy about something. So freaking out sounds kind of like a nervous activity, but we can use it for like exciting things as well. I can say like, oh my gosh, I forgot my car keys. I'm freaking out right now. How am I going to get home? We can use it to express like nervousness or anxiety, but we can also say something exciting like, you got tickets to Beyonce? I'm freaking out right now. Like we use it in a very positive way sometimes as well. So you can kind of choose depending on your emotion. Are you afraid or are you excited, surprised? Both are okay. That really creeped me out. The next expression is that really creeped me out. That really creeped me out. So creepy is a word we've talked about in a previous episode of Top Words on the horror movie episode of Top Words. So something that is creepy causes nervous feelings, or like we can't relax. It's kind of unsettling or strange. So something that causes those feelings in us, we can describe with a phrase, that creeped me out. That caused creepy feelings in me. Ugh, that thing creeped me out. So like bugs creep me out, for example. More than creep me out. I hate bugs. So in another sentence, yeah, I saw the ring. It really creeped me out. So something that causes uneasy feelings in you. I was so sketched out. The next expression is I was so sketched out. I was so sketched out. So here we are using the word sketch or sketched, which doesn't actually mean rough drawing here. This is sort of a slang phrase that has become commonly used throughout different types of English. To be sketched out by something means to have like nervous feelings that something is kind of dangerous. So creepy is just sort of unsettling, like difficult to relax. Sketchy is about a person usually, or like a situation that seems it could be dangerous. There could be something dangerous actually. It's not just that it's kind of scary, but there's maybe some danger there. So sketchy, like we don't know what's going to happen next. In a sentence then, I think a car was following me today. I was so sketched out. Holy. The next expression is holy something. Holy something. So we can say holy cow or holy other rude words. You can check some TV and movies for other words. You can finish this sentence with holy something. So we use this as just an exclamation. So when we're surprised or when we're afraid or when we're excited, we can say holy cow or like holy, I'm not going to say other words that people use because this is a family channel, but holy something can mean anything depending on the situation and the sort of tone of voice that you use with this word. Holy cow is a pretty common expression, but for surprise, usually. I would say the kind of rude expressions are more commonly used for fear. Oh my God. The next expression is, oh my God, oh my God. So depending on your intonation, you can kind of change the meaning of this word. You can express your surprise with, oh my God, or you can express like fear, like, oh my God. So depending on the way you say this word, you can kind of change the meaning. But you can use this in a lot of different expressions. I'm sure you've heard this expression before. Oh my God, also oh my gosh too, if you don't like to use the word God. In an example sentence, oh my God, there's a bee in the car. What? Okay, the next expression looked kind of funny on screen. It's just, what? What? So we can use this as a very casual form of surprise. What? So when someone surprises you, usually a friend, a good friend, and you're just stunned, like you're so surprised and shocked, but you don't feel like excited, you're just like, whoa. It's difficult for you to kind of say anything or do anything. Some people react with, what? Like that kind of long A sound. So it's usually used for surprise, actually, or something new that you just, oh my gosh, I can't react to this. It's just, what? That's all. Just, that's a simple reaction. So you might hear this as well for surprise, generally. In an example, a surprise party? What? You got me good. The last expression is you got me good. You got me good. This is an expression you can use when your friend or someone else you know plays a joke on you. So your friend tries to trick you, or your friend tries to scare you, or whatever, tries to get a reaction from you, usually by scaring you or surprising you. If the trick or the joke was effective, you can say, you got me good. You got me good. This is kind of like okay, I admit, like, you got me. You defeated me, in other words. You made me afraid, or you surprised me. So you can say, you got me good. You got me good. So that's the meaning of this expression. Nice job. In other words, you got me good. In a sentence, you got me good. Those are 10 ways to express fear and surprise. If there's another expression you like to use, please be sure to let us know in the comments for sure. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good study resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Top Words, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and in this episode we're going to talk about 10 words and expressions for talking about thoughts and ideas. So let's get started. I have an idea. The first expression is I have an idea. I have an idea. This is a really general expression you can use to introduce a new idea. This is pretty casual, but you can use it in slightly more formal situations as well. I have an idea. Let's get Thai food for lunch. Or, I have an idea. Let's go to the beach this weekend. I have an idea. Let's take a nap. In this example sentence, I have an idea. Let's start a company. I've been thinking. The next expression is I've been thinking. I've been thinking. You can use this to say I've been thinking ... and then begin an idea. Or you can say I've been thinking about topic. I've been thinking about topic. So I've been thinking about finding a new job. Or I've been thinking, what do you want to do for summer vacation? So you can use it in a couple of different ways. I've been thinking about, or I've been thinking. Both are okay. So in this sentence, I've been thinking about baking a cake all day. Here's a thought. The next word is here's a thought. Here's a thought. So again, this is a word you can use to introduce an idea. Here is a thought. In other words, here is an idea, a thought from my mind. Here you are. Here's a thought. So you can use this to introduce an idea you have had. Here's a thought. Why don't you get a haircut? In this example sentence, here's a thought. Why don't you take tomorrow off? What do you think? The next expression is, what do you think? What do you think? Very common way to ask for someone's opinion. What do you think? We connect the words do and you quite closely in this expression. What do you think? What do you think? Sounds much more natural than what do you think? So try to use what do you think? So this is just a general way to ask for someone else's opinion about anything, really. In a sentence, I kinda wanna eat something spicy for lunch. What do you think? You wanna know what I think? The next expression is, you wanna know what I think? So this is sort of like a challenge almost. Like it's asking the other person, do you want to know my opinion? Do you want to know what I think? Because I'll tell you only if you want to know. So you want to know what I think? Or you can drop wanna and say, you know what I think? So that you becomes ya. You know what I think? You know becomes you know. So you know what I think? Or you want to know what I think? So it's a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of an introduction before you actually share your opinion. In a sentence, you want to know what I think? It's a terrible idea. I've thought about this a lot. The next expression is, I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about this a lot. In this expression, we're actually using the present perfect tense. I've thought. I've thought. So that's I have thought about this, meaning I started thinking about this in the past and my thinking has continued to the present. I've thought about this a lot. So this implies, this tells the listener, it's something that has been on your mind for a while. I've thought about this a lot. So your opinion is based on all of this past thinking. So something you have been thinking about for a long time. In a sentence, I've thought about this a lot, and I really think you should quit the company. I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea means I don't know. But I have no idea means zero. I have no information, no ideas. I can't think of anything. Absolutely nothing. No idea. I have no idea. So this is typically used in response to a question for information. Like, where's your brother? I have no idea. Like, what did you do with the keys? I have no idea. So something's like, you have no information, absolutely no information. You can say, I have no idea. I don't know. Please note, though, that the idea part of the sentence is in the singular form. I have no idea. We'll talk about why in just a moment. But I have no idea to refer to having no information about something. In another sentence, the best hotel in the city? I have no idea. I have no ideas. The next expression is, I have no ideas. I have no ideas. So here, different from I have no idea, we're using the plural form ideas, ideas, meaning someone is asking you for a proposal. Someone is asking you to create something, to make something perhaps. So they're asking for a suggestion. And if you don't have any suggestions, nothing to propose, you can say, I have no ideas. I have no ideas. So what do you want to do this weekend? I have no ideas. Or what do you want to eat for lunch? I have no ideas, really. So if you don't have any ideas, nothing to propose, you can use this with an S at the end of ideas. In another sentence, something to do this weekend? I have no ideas. I don't know. The next expression is, I don't know. I don't know. So Michael and I talked about this in an episode of English Topics many years ago. But I don't know is I don't know, the casual contracted version of I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So we use this when we don't know the answer to something, I don't know, or when we just want to kind of relieve pressure, or when we're out of things to say as well. I don't know. So when we're not feeling sure, not feeling confident as well, we can use this phrase. In a sentence, why are you asking me? I don't know. I knew it. The last expression is I knew it. I knew it. So here we're using the past tense of know, the verb to know something, meaning to understand or to comprehend. We're using the past tense knew. I knew it. So we use this expression when we guessed correctly about something, or when something we thought was true is proven to be correct. So I knew it. I knew it. So this is typically said with a positive voice. You hear this a lot in movies as well, I think. All right. In a sentence, you had my keys. I knew it. So those are 10 words and expressions that you can use for talking about your thoughts and ideas. So I hope that's helpful. If you like, you can try to make an expression with one of these in the comment section below the video. Let us know if you have any other ideas as well. If you like the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Top Words, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia, and today I'm going to talk about the correct use of the word only. Let's take a look at a few examples and see how moving the word only around in a sentence can change the meaning of the sentence. All right, let's begin. First, I want to define the word only and how I'm going to use it for this lesson. The word only for this lesson, we're going to look at it as an adverb. So an adverb which means a single case or a single instance of something. So there's nothing different, nothing more, nothing less. There's just this one thing, this one case of something. But I want to focus for this lesson on the importance of the position of only in a sentence. So
One key to keep in mind when you use the word only, and this is a point for native speakers and for non-native speakers, we need to place the word only as close as possible to the word or to the phrase that it modifies. And by modifies, I mean only is connected to that phrase, only is changing that phrase in some way. And when I say place it as close as possible to that word, I mean before that word. It needs to come before the word it's changing, before the word it's modifying. So I want to show a few examples of how to do this, but I'm going to move the word only around in the same sentence. So let's take a look. I'll show you what I mean. Let's take a look at this sentence. The base sentence here is Sarah saw Michael at the park. A simple sentence. So there are two people involved, one action, in this case the past tense saw, and then a location at the park. But I'm going to use the word only here in a few different positions to show how much it can change the meaning of the sentence depending on where we place it. So the first example here I have is only Sarah saw Michael at the park. Here the word only comes before Sarah, so that means that these two words are connected. Only is modifying Sarah in this case. This sentence therefore means that Sarah, perhaps in a group of people or with somebody else, Sarah was the only person, the single person who saw Michael at the park. Maybe there were other people in the group she was with, but she was the single person, the only person who saw Michael. So only Sarah saw Michael at the park. That's the meaning with the placement of only before Sarah here. Let's look at the next sentence. Sarah only saw Michael at the park. So here, only is coming before the word saw. So in this case, it's modifying this verb, saw. This sentence, therefore, means that Sarah, the only thing Sarah did, her only action, was to see. She only saw Michael at the park, meaning no other actions happened. Sarah did not wave to Michael. Sarah did not greet Michael. Sarah did not throw something at Michael. Whatever. There was no other action. The only action, the single action, the sole action was that she saw Michael. Sarah only saw Michael at the park. So the placement before the verb gives us this meaning. Let's look at one more example. Sarah saw only Michael at the park. Here, only comes before Michael in this case. So the connection, the modification is happening here. Sarah saw only Michael at the park means she did not see any other people at the park. So this could mean that there were no other people at the park, or that maybe she just didn't see anybody at the park. So this sentence is a little bit tricky. It's a little hard to understand exactly what the writer wants to say, but it could mean that there were perhaps no people at the park, no other people at the park that Sarah saw. So she went to the park, she saw only Michael. There was only one person, a single person. It was Michael that Sarah saw. So placing only before, in this case, Michael, gives us this meaning. All right, one more sentence. Sarah saw Michael only at the park. So here, the word only is coming before this phrase, at the park, this location in this case, meaning that there was a single place where Sarah saw Michael. So Sarah did not see Michael at the supermarket, she did not see him at the store, she did not see him at school. She saw him only at the park. So there's a single location where she saw Michael. So these four sentences show us how much the meaning of a sentence can change depending on our placement of the word only. So it's important to keep in mind. Another thing that I've done throughout this lesson a little bit is I've emphasized with my voice the word that only is modifying. But I want to make one more point here. In speech, when actually speaking, we can stress words for emphasis and for clarity to make it very clear which word in the sentence we want to emphasize, which word we want only to modify. So for example, I can say only Sarah saw Michael at the park, or Sarah only saw Michael at the park. So with your voice, you have the ability to emphasize certain words and certain phrases in the sentences. However, in writing, it's not possible to do this, so correct placement of the word only is quite important. So I wanted to give you a few examples, and it's just something to think about the next time you use the word only. So make sure that you're placing the word only as close as possible to the word that it modifies. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so that's it for this lesson. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let us know in the comment section below this video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other resources. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Today I'm going to talk about how to use the word almost. I'm going to show a few different example sentences and give you a couple pointers, some things to watch out for when you're using this word. So first, let's look at the meaning of the word almost. So almost is an adverb. It's a word that means nearly or not quite or not completely. It can also mean similar to something, but not exactly like something. So I've got a lot of example sentences here that I hope to talk about to kind of explain the use of almost. Before I do that though, I want to mention this point over here. Almost comes before the word it modifies. So modifies means like almost is attached. You can think of it as being attached to another word and almost changes the meaning of that word. So using almost before another word or before another phrase adds this meaning of nearly or not quite or not completely to that word or to that phrase. So let's begin with that and look at a few examples. I almost forgot my homework. So here almost comes before the verb forgot in this case, meaning I nearly forgot my homework. So the word almost, like I said, almost should come before the word it modifies. So here it's modifying the word forgot. So I nearly forgot my homework. I was very close to forgetting my homework. Another example, he almost always calls on his way home. So here it comes before the word it comes before the word always in this case. Almost always, meaning maybe like 95% of the time or 90% of the time. So not always, but nearly, very nearly always calls on his way home is the meaning of this sentence. Okay, let's look at another one, maybe an opposite meaning here. They almost never leave the house. So here we've got never as the word that almost is modifying. So almost never means you can think of it in terms of a percentage, for example, like 5% of the time they leave the house. Very, very close to zero, but not quite zero. So almost never, not quite never, but very near to never. The next one, you're almost finished. You're almost finished. So here almost is modifying the word finished. So in other words, you're nearly finished in this case. Maybe you're nearly finished with your job for the day, or you're nearly finished with your homework, for example. You're almost finished is the meaning here. Let's look at the next sentence then. So the next sentence is we're almost home. We're almost home. In this case, almost is modifying the word home. Home, in this case, means at your place of residence. So to be in a status of being at your place, at your dwelling, at your residence. So to be almost home means nearly at your house, in other words. So we can modify in this way. Similar to this negative I used up here with never, we've got there's almost nothing left in the refrigerator. So again, almost nothing in this case. So very nearly no things, very nearly maybe nothing to eat or no food in the refrigerator. So this sentence means there's something in the refrigerator, a few things maybe, but almost nothing. So very little of something. Okay, the next sentence shows another point that I want to make about the placement of the word almost. I mentioned in these initial example sentences that the word almost comes before the word it modifies, as we've seen so far. However, when you're using the verb to be and the variations of it, like was and were, for example, almost comes after that verb. So let's look at an example of that. Here we have, here I have, he was almost fired from his job. So here's my to be verb, in this case using was. He was almost fired from his job. So here, almost follows the verb to be. This is a slight change. I'll show you one more example sentence later. So again, let's go back to this first pattern. Almost no one came to her party. So here, almost begins the sentence. It's modifying the word no one. Almost no one came to her party. So meaning very few people came to her party. Lastly, let's look at one more to be example. Here, I was almost late for the movie. So again, here's our to be verb, I was, and almost follows that to be verb. I was almost late for the movie. Okay, so these are quite a few examples of how we can use almost. I want to talk a little bit about some other ways to use almost. We use almost with time and quantity expressions. So in these cases, we use the word almost before the time or before the quantity. Let's look at some examples. For example, we've been waiting almost 2 hours. So here, 2 hours is a length of time. We use almost before that, so nearly 2 hours. Not quite 2 hours, but nearly 2 hours. The next example, I've lived here for almost 5 years. So that doesn't mean 5 years exactly, but very nearly 5 years. Same thing here. He said there were almost 5,000 people. So almost 5,000, not quite, maybe like 4,900, for example. Very nearly 5,000. Again, the recipe made almost 200 cookies. So again, not quite is the meaning here. So all of these kind of, we use this when it's easier to round up, to use like the next easily recognizable number. Like it might sound strange in the last example to say the recipe made 498 cookies. It sounds very, very specific. And it also sounds like maybe the speaker counted each individual cookie. So sometimes that's really not reasonable, or it might just sound a little bit strange. So, or also it's just sometimes not possible to count exactly how many people or how many of something were in a situation. But using almost, we can make a guess sometimes. So this is quite a useful thing for time and quantity expressions. Okay, so as we've seen so far in this lesson, we can use always with words like always and never. I used it over here. For example, he almost always and they almost never. So just keep in mind that these have very, very different meanings, kind of opposite meanings. So I almost always means very nearly always, and almost never means very nearly never, but not quite. Same thing with all or nothing or no. So I used an example here. There's almost nothing, for example. So here, it means very close to zero. If I used almost all, like almost all the people were happy, it means very nearly everybody as well. So you can kind of see a pattern here, and the same one is we can see here at the end, everyone and no one. It's like extreme, so like 100% versus 0% of something. So all or nothing, everyone or no one. We can use almost to show that we are very near to these levels, but not quite at these levels. The last thing I want to mention in this lesson is a word of caution. Just be careful about where you place almost in a sentence, because it can really affect the meaning of the sentence. So here, let's look at two very similar sentences. 1, he almost told his boss all the secrets. And 2, he told his boss almost all the secrets. These are very different sentences, but they seem very similar. Here, I've used almost before the verb told. So almost is modifying the word told here. He almost told his boss all the secrets, meaning he very nearly told his boss all the secrets, but he did not. He did not. So here, almost modifies this verb, told, meaning the action itself. He almost did this action, but he did not do the action. In this sentence, however, he told his boss almost all the secrets. Almost, because of its positioning, is modifying the word all. He told his boss almost all the secrets, meaning he told his boss very nearly everything, all of the secrets. So maybe like 95%, 90 to 95% of the secrets he told his boss. So the action happened. He did tell his boss, but he didn't tell everything in this case. So please keep this in mind. Your placement, the place in the sentence where you use the word almost, can create very, very different meanings. So remember this point here. Almost should come before the word it modifies. So when you're writing and when you're speaking, you should think carefully about this. Also remember, when you're using the verb to be, almost should come after that verb. Finally, when you're speaking, as I am right now, we do have the ability to use our voices. We can emphasize key words. We can stress them with our voices to make it clear which word we want to emphasize. However, we can't really do that in writing. So it's really important to consider, to think about where we place the word almost when we're writing. So I hope that this lesson was useful for you. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to let us know in the comment section below this video. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Today I'm going to talk about the difference between which and that. Which and that are both relative pronouns, but a lot of people confuse the two. So let's talk about how to use them. Okay, first, a quick overview. Which, first, we use which in what are called non-restrictive relative clauses. We use that, on the other hand, in restrictive relative clauses. So before we continue, let's talk about the difference between non-restrictive clauses and restrictive clauses. The difference here, a non-restrictive clause, first of all, where we use which, is a clause that does not have information essential to understanding the noun it is connected to. I'll show you some examples in just a minute. A restrictive clause, however, is a clause that has information essential to our understanding of that noun. So we need the information in the restrictive clause to completely understand the noun or the noun phrase it is attached to. A non-restrictive clause is sort of extra information. We don't need the information to understand the noun or the noun phrase. It just provides some more information. So let's take a look at a few examples of this. The first example I have is rather extreme, but it's just to show the differences between these two. First, the school that I parked my car next to is dangerous. So here my noun is school. Here I've got the relative pronoun that. I have the school that I parked my car next to is dangerous. I've used that here because my clause is a restrictive clause. I need this information. The school that I parked my car next to is dangerous. If I remove this, the school is dangerous, the sentence is correct. However, the meaning changes. The key here is that I parked my car there, so I want to explain that specifically the school that I parked my car next to, this school in particular, is dangerous. So that shows us that it's a restrictive clause. We have to use that in this sentence because the information is essential to our understanding. In this sentence, however, the school, which has a tennis court, is dangerous. I've used which. So which is a non-restrictive, is used in non-restrictive clauses. This shows us it is extra information. The school has a tennis court. Do I need to know this information? No, it's just extra information. If I remove this clause, the school is dangerous. The root sentence, the basic sentence, stays the same. This is just extra information. It doesn't necessarily tell us essential information about the situation. So we use which to show that. It's a non-restrictive relative clause. As I said, this is a rather extreme example. So let's take a look at something that's a little bit more complex. Okay. Let's look at the next two sentences. First, the car, which I bought last year, is already having trouble. And the car that I bought last year is already having trouble. These are very similar sounding sentences. However, our choice of which or that, as well as the commas, which I'll talk about later, have changed the meaning. So there are a couple key differences here. One, by seeing that in the first sentence that we're using a non-restrictive clause here with which, we see the car which I bought last year. This shows us that this is extra information about the car. Here, however, we see that this is essential information. The car that I bought last year is already having trouble. So the speaker could be saying here, with this sentence, the second sentence, the car that I bought last year, specifically a car that the speaker purchased the previous year. This sentence means, therefore, the speaker might have other cars. The speaker is specifically meaning this specific car that he or she bought last year. In this sentence, with the non-restrictive clause, we don't have the same nuance. The car, which I bought last year, is just extra information in this sentence. So here, the car that I bought last year, this is indicating a specific car. This one, with the non-restrictive clause, it's just giving us extra information. So the speaker may or may not have another car. We don't know. So that's all I want to say about that. Okay, but a question that many people have is, how do you know whether it's a restrictive or a non-restrictive clause? So this is a quick tip, a quick hint for native speakers and non-native speakers, actually. Is it restrictive, non-restrictive? How do I know? To do that, remove the clause. Just take the clause out of the sentence. Is the meaning of the sentence the same? Is the sentence still grammatically correct? Is it okay? If yes, if the sentence is okay, the meaning is the same, it's a non-restrictive clause. If no, if the meaning changes, if you lose some key information, it is a restrictive clause. So this is a quick hint. If you're not sure whether to use which or whether to use that, try this test, this quick test. Just take it out and see if the meaning changes. The last thing I want to talk about here is the use of commas. So you'll notice I used commas throughout this lesson, and also when I was reading, they kind of create a natural pause around this extra information. But when do you use them? We should use commas around non-restrictive clauses. So you can see I used them here and here in the example sentences. We use commas around non-restrictive clauses only. Again, this lesson, comma, which is being recorded, comma, is about which and that. So when you're reading, it creates a natural pause. So the reader knows there's going to be like extra information there. The reader can understand through use of these commas. However, do not use commas around restrictive clauses. For example, the lesson that I just taught was about how to use which and that. This is a restrictive clause. So I mean specifically this lesson that I just taught was about how to use which and that. I should not include commas here because I'm not including any extra information. All of the information is essential. It's the same with all of the other example sentences I used in this lesson. There are no commas included because all of the information is essential. The reader needs to understand everything in one piece. You can think of it that way. Okay. So that's an overview of the differences between which and that, restrictive clauses as well, and a couple of comma tips too. So I hope that this was a useful lesson for you. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to let us know in the comments. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check us out for more good stuff at EnglishClass101.com. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
10 ways to report speech. Let's go. Say. The first word is say. Say as a verb. Say is a very neutral word you can use to report someone's speech, to explain something someone said in the past. So, for example, he said the barbecue was canceled. Just a simple, neutral report. Tell. The next verb is tell. Tell is used when one person is giving information to another, to tell someone something they did not know before. Don't say, tell me your phone number, that's weird, but like, can you tell me where the station is? Can you tell me where to buy a hamburger? Can you tell me where to pick up my new car? Like, so giving someone information they don't know, or on the other hand, explaining something one way to another person. So don't tell me what I can't do is a very good Lost reference if you've ever watched Lost. So tell. Another example sentence, my boss told me I was doing a good job. Speak. The next one is speak. Speak. So we use speak when we're talking about language ability, like I speak English, I speak Japanese. We can use speak in the past tense to report something, but it usually sounds a little more formal. So like I spoke to my boss about, or I spoke to my parents about, or I spoke to my boyfriend or girlfriend about, blah, blah, blah. That using speak instead of talked makes it sound a little bit more formal. So you can use speak, but it's going to sound polite. In a sentence, my colleague spoke with me about an upcoming project. Was like Okay, the next one, the next two actually, are very, very casual expressions. So when you're speaking with friends and you're kind of talking about a quick, maybe somewhat emotional conversation, you will hear native speakers, especially Americans, perhaps this is unique somewhat to Americans, use the phrase was like. I was like, he was like, she was like. This is a very casual way to report speech. And you'll hear it often very, very quickly together. So someone will say, I was like, what? And then she was like, no. And then I was like, yeah. That's the kind of pattern you'll hear it in. Very, very quick ways to report speech, but the subject changes. I was like, he was like, she was like, we were like. This is a way to share what happens quickly. Instead of I said, he said, she said, which might sound a little too formal, we can use I was like, he was like to do that instead. So this is a really fun one. And if you can use this naturally, I think that it'll really help you sound more natural too. So in a sentence, and then he was like, I love that movie, was all. The next one is also similar to was like. We have the expression was all. So was all, don't worry about all. All does not have the meaning of the whole of something or a complete something. Instead, was all, this set phrase, is used to report speech. Usually this one is used when there's some kind of emotional aspect to your conversation, or it's a little dramatic or maybe a little exciting. We use it the same way as was like, in that very, very quick style of speaking, and then he was like and I was all, and then she was like and I was all. We use those together, but I was all has a little more emphasis. I feel I tend to use it when I want to express a stronger emotion. And I was all, no way, or and I was all, what? So you can use it for those very like surprised emotions or maybe angry emotions. Was like and was all are both used in very casual situations. So, in a sentence, and I was all, oh my God, me too. Talk. The next word is talk. So, talk, similar to say, is a fairly neutral verb when reporting speech. You'll use it in a situation where someone is giving new information to you, but maybe it's a two-way conversation. So, for example, we talked about blah, blah, blah for a topic, or my boss talked to me about blah, blah, blah. So maybe new information is being exchanged, but the conversation is two-way. There are multiple participants. With tell, it's like the nuance is sort of one person is reporting information, giving information. With talked, there's an exchange happening there. So keep in mind when you use the word talk, you will say either I talked to or I talked with someone. And then you'll usually have a topic. So I talked to my friend about blah, blah, blah. I talked to my friend about my new apartment. I talked to my boss about a raise. I talked to my dog about what dogs do. So there's some kind of exchange happening there. You'll need to use to or with when you're referring to the person or entity you're talking to. And you'll use about to refer to the subject. So you can use this one, when you want to discuss exchanges of information. So, in a sentence, she talked to me about my family. Mention. Let's go to the next one. The next one is mention. Mention is used when like something is there's just one small point in a conversation, like just a little side note, or maybe it's not the focus of a conversation, but just something someone says quickly, or there's just a little thing that you hear. Oh, you mentioned something about blah, 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 or you mentioned that a new project, like it's maybe not the focus of the conversation, but something that you heard a little bit about. That's when we use the verb mention. We can also use it in a statement, like please mention any skills you have on a resume. So the nuance is sort of like just a little bit of information is when we use mention. So in a sentence, our manager mentioned upcoming changes at the company. To go on and on. Okay, the next expression is to go on and on. So to go on and on means just to talk for a very long time. So maybe you have a coworker or a friend or a family member that just talks and does not stop talking. We say to go on and on. That's the expression we use. So in a sentence, the speaker at the seminar was going on and on about the topic. If you really want to emphasize it, you can say it was going on and on and on and on and on. That really emphasizes that the person continues to speak. So if you know somebody who does that a lot, you can use this expression to talk about them. According to. The next expression here is according to. According to is used actually in the news or like to officially report something. So according to sources or according to the police, according to the government official, according to my teacher, according to my mother, these are like direct reports of information, and they're direct reports of information from a specific source. So according to the newspaper, my neighborhood has 50,000 amazing ramen shops. That's not true. But if I want to, instead of just saying my neighborhood has 50,000 amazing ramen shops, I'm giving a source for that. So according to my newspaper, this is where I got the information. So this is important to use in news, in newspapers, and any kind of official documentation. You will see and hear according to in these cases. In a sentence, according to a witness at the scene, the suspect escaped. Report. Great, so the next one is report. So report, similar to according to, we use report in more official situations. So to officially share information, like to report to the police, to report to your teacher, to report to your boss. Sometimes it means to submit documentation, like to give someone a written report. Sometimes it's to share information officially, just with your voice, to report news or to report an update. So when you want to give official information, we'll use the verb report. So in a sentence, sources in the area report that the accident was not serious. Thank goodness. All right.
Top 10 must-know phrases for the restaurant. Let's get started. A table for 3, please. A table for 3, please. You tell them the number of people that you are total so that the host can bring you to an appropriate table. A table for 2, please. A table for 5, please. Could I please see a menu? Could I please see a menu? Usually, menus are given to you as soon as you sit down at your table. But if that's not the case and you need to ask, this is a polite way to do it. Could I please see a menu? I'd like to try this dish. I'd like to try this dish. When looking at a menu, hopefully you'll find something you want to eat. I'd like to try this dish. Could you leave out the onions? Could you leave out the onions? If there's an ingredient in the dish that you're ordering that you don't want, you can always ask the waiter if it could be prepared without that ingredient. So for example, I might say, could I get the burger but with no cheese? Could you pass the salt? Could you pass the salt? When you're at a restaurant, especially if you're at a big table with a lot of people, you might not always be able to reach things. So you would ask, could you pass me the salt? Could you pass me the ketchup? Could you pass me another napkin? Waiter! Waiter! A waiter is someone who takes your order and brings you food. In America and in many other Western countries, it's more polite to call a waiter to your table by simply saying, "Excuse me?" Or if you see another waiter walking by, but it's not your waiter, you can always say, "Excuse me, if you see our waiter, could you please let them know to come to our table?" Is there any dairy in this dish? Is there any dairy in this dish? This is something you would say if you have a dairy allergy, a dairy intolerance, or you just don't like dairy. You're asking the waiter about the ingredients in a particular dish. I do this all the time. Is there any cheese in this? No? Okay. And if there is an ingredient that you don't want, for example, onions, you could say, are there any onions in this? And the waiter might say yes. And if you don't want it, you could always request, could you leave out the onions? Could you prepare it without the onions, please? Can we get separate checks? Can we get separate checks? This is actually something that's very common, especially in America. If you might go out with a group of friends, or even if you're on a date, sometimes you might want to get separate checks, pay for your own things. That way, you can all pay separately just for what you yourself ordered, and you won't have to worry about owing each other money or calculating off a big, huge bill. Are there any specials today? Are there any specials today? A special at a restaurant is a dish that isn't usually on the menu. It's something that's special, but it's a special that the chef is offering that day or that week or that month. So sometimes if you don't see what the specials are, you'd ask your waiter, "Excuse me, are there any specials today? Could we have the bill, please? Could we have the bill, please?" This is how you request that the check or the bill comes to your table. "Could we get the check, please? Could we get the bill, please?" You're asking this to your waiter, who will then bring you the check and you can pay.
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.